Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a musician, business owner, and web developer of sorts. Her name is Adele Cooper, aka Adelicate. Welcome to the show, Adele. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad. That's the second time I've muffled up the intro, and I normally do these things where I kind of just like, I don't like to edit too much. I do edit, but I like to kind of keep things natural. And
It gives
I
you
don't know
something to talk about.
about my failings editing. No, okay, let's just get straight to you instead of talking about my failing at editing. So, you're a musician. How did you get started in music, and what other projects have you been involved in?
Oh, good question. Good starter question. So, I'll tell you my music background and then what kind of inspired me to get to what I'm doing right now, which is quite funny. So when I was a kid, I picked up a couple of instruments, which was the piano and the violin to grade about 4. They were not the instruments I wanted to personally do. I actually really wanted to learn how to do the flute, but I wasn't allowed to do that one. So these were kind of like half-assed attempts, to be honest. Wait, am I allowed to say that?
You can say that, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, I just never really got into them. But when I was like, I want to say like 6 or 7, I watched this film called Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, which is a fantastic film, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But in it, there are these vampire witches in a rock band called the Hex Girls. And that was my moment. I saw them on the screen and I was like, okay, that's what I want to be. And I would like dance around the living room pretending to be the main girl from the band. And it's just so funny that that's where I've ended up now, is like doing vampire rock band stuff. I'm like, I'm living that dream. It's so funny.
We'll talk about what you're doing in a bit soon. I just want to kind of build a journey up to that point. So that's interesting. So yeah, by the sound of things, you were very young then. Like, this is childhood, like, I guess then.
Yes.
So when did you start kind of flirting with actually being in? Were you involved in any projects up to the run up to now? Was there anything that you did? I don't know, either solo work or previous bands, something like that.
I actually had a lot of confidence issues with music. So I've never like performed or like sung in front of people. That was such a big thing for me, is singing in front of people was, I just couldn't do it. So I started, literally like never could be in like school musicals or anything. I was too shy. But then I started doing YouTube in about 2015, and I started playing around with doing covers on YouTube, recording myself alone. And then when I met my band, I started working with some of them on also like music and Disney covers. So me and Connie did a couple of covers on her channel, which was fun. But that was like a big point for me in learning to sing in front of other people. So the first couple of times I recorded music where it wasn't just me in a room, I freaked out. I like had to be like, I'm so sorry, can you like hit record and then leave? Because I just would panic. I'd get the panic. I couldn't, like, the notes wouldn't come out. It was so much anxiety. But from then to now, I've like improved so much with like just getting that under wraps, and I can sing in front of like a couple people now, but that's going to be tested soon, I guess.
There's a couple of things to unpack from that, but I'm just going to jump straight into the band now, because you kind of like laid it out for us there a little bit, like your progression. You did this stuff on YouTube, it gives you confidence, you met certain people. So obviously one of the people that you met was was a YouTuber. You mentioned Connie Glynn.
Yes.
So basically you guys are in a band called Snaggletooth, and I suppose there's different directions I can go with this in the beginning. Let's start with what kind of sound would you say that this band actually has? Like, and what is the vibe that you're trying to go for with this band?
Yeah, so we're currently actually evolving our style. So our first EP was very dark or haunting. It was like electronic rock, but also some like kind of more acousticy things. And now we're getting a bit lighter and we're experimenting with like more dance kind of music, which is really fun. Not where we thought the band was going, but at the beginning, our like influences were like Nine Inch Nails, Flyleaf, Grimes, kind of like that sort of thing.
So that's kind of developed naturally then, I suppose. So like the stuff that you're doing now, is it that you guys just collectively are listening to different things and you're kind of bringing those inspirations in, like saying like, okay, hey, really into this at the moment, maybe let's try this, or like what's the kind of motivation there? Like what's the inspiration?
Definitely. We've definitely been playing around for the last couple of months, I'd say, since the EP came out, which was in April, I think. And now we're in October. So it's been a while since maybe a month ago we released Trinity, but before that, those months were us not really knowing where to go next and experimenting with different styles. We have a band Spotify playlist called Snaggle Inspo, I think. Okay. And we just add like new music that we like to that, and we're like, hey guys, check out this track, like we should do something similar to this, or like I love the beginning of this song, that kind of thing.
Do you get people from your fan base suggesting things, or like, I don't know, anything like that? Or do people kind of go like, hey, have you thought about this? Or wouldn't it be cool if you did this? Anything like that?
I actually haven't so far. Okay. Not me personally, but maybe Connie's had a couple.
But yeah, I meant like you collectively, like maybe.
Not that I've seen. They just, a lot of people say that they haven't heard anything like what we're doing, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I think the first time I heard what you guys were doing, I definitely heard stuff like this, but I don't think I'd seen many bands kind of present it in the way that you're presenting it. I think there's something in the way that it looks, the aesthetic that's particularly interesting. And yeah, I mean, this is a massive plug, but make sure you go and check out the music, because I do think that it's worth listening to. I always listen to all the music that the musicians that I have on the show have put out, and you know, it's obviously, it gives me an idea of like who I'm talking to, the vibe, everything like that. But there's clear progression from what was presented in the EP and then like your latest singles. There's clearly something there. It's kind of an exciting kind of process. I mean, yeah, tell us about that. Like, well, where's your sort of head mindset at with regards to the new music and stuff? Like, how does it feel?
I really love it. I really, really love the new stuff. Like, I was excited for the EP coming out. Obviously, like that was like the first thing, holding a physical like CD case in my hand, going, this is my music. Oh my God. Like, that was such a good moment. And now I'm just so excited for this new stuff and to keep working on music. Now we're kind of just pushing out singles, like whatever comes to mind, we're just getting it down and doing it. So when Trinity came out, we were already over it and excited for the next song that is coming out at the end of this month.
So you guys fully independent, like you're producing everything yourself as far as like the physical merchandise and everything, or do you have like a team of people working for you? Like talk to us about that a little bit.
We do have a team of people. So we have a manager and then a couple of people that sort out merch and stuff. But all of the music and music videos we do ourselves. So within the band we have a lot of skills. So me and Sparkles both can do VFX, which is massively helpful for music videos. Obviously all of us can video edit, we all have backgrounds in YouTube. And then we have like a lot of friends that are, you know, videographers, lighting people, actresses that we can get in and collaborate, which is really, really fun to work with them. The Boohoo Baby music video shoot was just the best time ever. It was so fun.
Talk to us a little bit about the sort of the friendship slash working relationship that you have with Connie Glynn. I'm sort of intrigued by, firstly, like how you guys started working together, because from what I understand, like you guys were friends anyway, you just knew each other, and then obviously you started working with each other. So tell us a little bit about that kind of working relationship and how that's evolved.
So I've known Connie for like maybe 4 years now. Connie and me as well, we've both gone through a massive like evolution in our lives and over the last 4 years. So when I met her, I was still at uni.
Okay.
We were both very much into Pink and Disney things, and that's how we expressed ourselves. And now both of us together have kind of like, we've gone a bit darker, I'd say. Connie more so than me, but it's quite interesting how your friendships kind of like change with you. But yeah, we've been friends for a long time, and she took me to Disneyland Paris, which was my first ever Disney trip, and that was such a fun time. And then just hanging out and realizing, well, we did a lot of covers together on her YouTube channel before she deleted it all.
Okay.
And then we just realized, wait, it's like our voices sound really good together. Let's do something with this. And then that's kind of how it started.
So was it kind of like a dual thing that you both realized, or was it one of you in particular was like, what about this? And then the other one was like, yeah. Like,
I don't know, actually. It feels like it was like all of us together. We were like, this actually sounds quite nice. We did, it was only Disney covers that we did before. So then this new style of music was definitely a challenge for me to figure out how to use my voice in a more of a rock kind of way, because I'd only done musical theatre and Disney songs only. So it's been,
Awesome. Talk to us a little bit about your approach to songwriting, because I'm intrigued by this. Obviously, every track has a very different vibe to it, and it's a 3-piece. So, like, what's your songwriting process?
We usually start with like a couple of bars of just a vibe or a sound that we like, and then we start building that out, and we come up with a verse or a chorus, and there's so many different iterations of the songs that we do, and we have maybe, gosh, I would say like over 30 sat just we put them all in like a Google document of like little clips of what we've done, and then we'll come back to them and we'll be like, this vibe matches this kind of song that I want to do, so let's work on that for a bit.
And do you all write lyrics, or is there a particular lyric writer? Like, who comes in with those?
Connie is the main lyric writer. She's an author, so obviously she's very gifted with words, but the rest of the band, we will fine tune it and come in and double check every little thing and make sure we're happy with it.
So, like, what would you say are your kind of main contributions to the band? Like, what because obviously, as you said, like the band all has different things to bring to the table, but where do you feel sort of most comfortable? What are the areas that, like, that's your domain?
I really love working on, once we've got the main like structure down, I love helping with like the instruments and the sounds. More about the atmosphere, I'd say. Like, I want the guitar here to, I don't play guitar, but sometimes I'd be like, I want it to do like this kind of thing, and then we'll do that, and just sort of like tweaking things would be like, this ending would be better like this, I think, but what do you guys think? Luckily we haven't had any clashes, but it's just a big collaborative process, to be honest. Like, it's not like one person does one thing, it's like we're all working together. Like with the EP, we were all in the studio for like the same amount of hours. We all sat there. If we heard something, we'd pick out. I've got quite a good like ear for details, eye for details, you know what I mean? So I can pick up on like very small things that I want to change, or I'm very perfectionist as well. So
you've all got a particularly strong work ethic then?
Yes, we will be in the studio all night, and it does not faze us at all.
Fair enough. Well, that's good to have. There's normally you have like in every band you got like one or two people that are like the driving force, and then there's a few people that chip in certain areas, and there's always inevitably the lazy one. But from the sound of things, you're all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak.
Yeah, that's why I think it's working so well, because we're all just so driven to do this. There were definitely phases in this band. So the band hasn't just existed this year, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. The band started maybe 2 years before we got our EP out. And that time I wasn't as available because I still had a full-time job. So I didn't have as much time to give to the band. I was also just very unhappy during that time. And then once COVID hit, we were like, well, I guess there's nothing else we can do, so we're just going to work on music, which was good. So we were in a bubble during COVID, all three of us, so that was handy, because she actually, I don't know if I can say that. No, it doesn't matter.
Never mind. Fair enough.
But yeah, since COVID hit, we were just straight on working in the studio, working on the EP for like over a year, and then we released it, and now here we are.
Generally, when it comes to like writing songs, like how long would you say that process takes for you guys? I mean, I'm amazed. I got to be honest. Like most bands that I've been in or bands I've seen, it's like a tumultuous relationship generally with these things. It depends. It sounds very straightforward with you guys. So kind of like from a working perspective, it sounds kind of idyllic. But like generally, like let's say like on a given track, like how long do you think that process takes?
Recently we've been really fast at it. So we'll start a song, and then within 3 weeks we will have the demo, we will have recorded the music, we will have fine-tuned it, we will have recorded a music video and released it, all within the space of a month. It's crazy, because once we have an idea and we're set on it, we're like, right, let's do it now. We're doing it right now.
Jeez, can I join this band? Sounds like heaven. Jesus.
This new one as well has been a similar timeline, the one that's coming out at the end of this month. We could release it, like if we tried, we could release it next week, but with the gig coming up, we want to just focus on that first, not promote too many things at once.
I respect that. I like the kind of the business approach that you guys seem to have. It's very like, you know, you take your time with things. I think that's like a lot of people can learn from that generally, because I think it's very tempting to just put everything out at once and stuff. But I think, and certainly this is a trend that I've noticed with a lot of musicians now, especially musicians at the very top of their game. It used to be that you'd release a couple of singles ahead of an album and then you release the album. Now, a lot of artists are almost releasing singles in the build up to an album, but they don't necessarily appear on that album. They might, but generally it's almost like to tide you over. Or I don't know. I reckon what they're doing is they're throwing you a vibe. They're like, what do people think of this? And if people like it, they're like, okay, maybe we'll do an album like that. If people don't like it, it's like, let's not do that. That's what I reckon it is.
Yeah, trial and error makes sense.
Yeah, but it's almost like you're kind of asking for people's opinions without asking. You know, you're kind of just like trying to go, let's see what they think about this. Let's push the boat, and it's like testing the waters a little bit. Okay. Before I ask about the overall goals and stuff for the band, I got to know, like, what's the deal with this name? Where's this name coming from? Snaggletooth. It's a very out there name. I wonder, is there a story there? Or
we had a lot of different names before. So the first name we ever had was Lucky Violet, which I really loved. But there were a couple of other bands that were kind of too similar. So we decided to change it, and then we were Mossy Rocks for like a minute, and then we were Snaggletooth. And it's quite an interesting one. I can't remember where it came from, but we all have like kind of a Snaggletooth, so it was like it matches with all of us.
Now you know.
Now I know. Yeah.
What would you say are the overall kind of goals for this band? Like, what are the main things you guys are hoping to achieve?
We're just having so much fun with it. We're not trying to like set like any goals to, you know, we're not really thinking about that. I mean, we'd love to do a tour.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I'd say, what we're working up to at the moment. We'd love to do another album. Obviously, we want it to be successful, but also we're just having so much fun doing it that whatever happens, happens.
Fair enough. Well, best of luck with that. Hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Let's move it forward. So you mentioned sort of in the prelude that you have this kind of strong passion for Disney. And, you know, this is evident in many of your online videos. For instance, on your TikTok, there's a lot of Disney themed videos. So when did your love of Disney begin, and why do you love the brand and the movies so much?
Oh my gosh, it's just always been with me. It just, something about Disney just makes me so happy. It's you know, connecting with your childhood, like being an adult is so hard. And it's just it's something I can cling to that makes me feel happy, and everything is good and just happy endings with Disney. Well, Disney is a bit dark now, but well, Pixar, you know, makes you cry, but in a good way.
Yeah, this is something, it's interesting that you've gone there actually, as far as like you think it's dark. Okay, before I ask my next question, what do you mean like it's dark? Do you mean that the Disney Pixar movies are just more adult themed, or do you mean the business practices of Disney itself? Like, what do you mean when you say dark?
No, I wasn't talking about the business practices. I was talking about, okay, so Pixar definitely addresses some darker topics, which I think is really good, especially for children to watch that sort of thing. But also, did you know that most Disney princesses have at least one dead parent? What's that about?
Wait, what?
Yep.
What do you mean?
Okay. Snow White, both dead parents. Cinderella.
Did they ever say that though? I don't remember them saying that.
Yeah, they do. Oh, they do. Ariel's mother gets brutally murdered, and you see it in the third movie. Oh my goodness, all of them.
Wait, the third movie. So that is that like a sort of a prequel movie then? Because I only remember
They did a prequel. It's really good. The second one's the best one though.
Oh wow, I've only seen the first one, but fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
People hate Disney sequels, but honestly, some of them are really good.
I think it's because you don't always have like the original cast. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
Like I'd heard the gentleman who played the voice actor of the crab, I think, or whatever it is, the lobster. I don't know.
From the Little Mermaid, Sebastian.
From the Little Mermaid, Sebastian. Yeah, like I believe he passed away maybe 10 years ago, something like that. So I don't know necessarily that he would have. Well, firstly, been available, you know, because if he's passed away, he's not available. But sometimes they don't reprise the roles on purpose. Like they just don't want to, not interested. The budget's not big enough. I think a lot of the time with the sequels as well. I don't know if this is the case anymore because Disney's just one of the biggest companies on the planet now. But back in the day, it used to be like, you know, their first one hits big. So like The Little Mermaid was obviously a huge success, box office and everything. But then the sequels often were like straight to video. There was this expression, straight to video, back in the day. And obviously we don't really have video anymore. Like we have DVD, but everything's online
Disney
now.
Plus,
so.
Yeah.
Right. This is why I think it's a little bit different now because, you know, you're using Disney Plus, you're streaming, you're more likely to like sort of come across these things. Whereas like back in the day, you'd walk around Blockbuster. The chances of you, unless you're like a really, really big Disney fan, the chances of you coming across like these sequels, you might not even know they exist. Do you know what I mean? Like I knew that there was a second one of The Little Mermaid, but I think I just heard about it rather than seeing it, you know?
Yeah.
But it just go back to that parents thing. Is there like a reason for that? Has Disney
I don't know why they do it. Off the top of my head, I know Aurora has both parents.
Okay.
but I can't think of many others. Obviously, both of, you know, Anna and Elsa, both of their parents, you see their parents die in the shipwreck. I just can't really. Rapunzel. Oh no, Rapunzel does have parents, but her stepmother dies.
Maybe it's to do with like introducing a tragedy, like the worst kind of tragedy that you could experience maybe as a child. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like, oh well, this happened to my favorite princess, so I'll be okay, kind of thing. I think that's probably why they did it.
It's dark. Gee.
I know it is. I know. But it makes you connect with the characters though, doesn't it? Like
yeah. I don't know, it's just I have a very different perception of Disney right now because like back in the day, you know, I grew up with the same movies you did, so it's all like, you know, Lion King, Aladdin. I mean, there's so many iconic like movies that still hold up to this day. But I feel like they don't quite have the same. I haven't seen anything in maybe the last 10, 15 years that's really maybe Frozen. I suppose that had a bit of an appeal, but I feel like that was more because of the soundtrack and the visuals as opposed to the actual story. Do you know what I mean? Like back in the day, things like Aladdin and the Lion King had like really compelling stories. The Jungle Book as well. Like there's just so many classic ones that really had this kind of iconic story.
I totally agree with you. And it's not just with the storytelling and the music, it's also the lost art of 2D animation. It's so sad. It's so sad.
This is actually the next question I want to ask you. Like, what are your thoughts on how Disney has changed over the years? You know, the live action remakes, for example. Like, where do you sit on that? Like, generally, do you think that Disney's changed for the better or worse overall?
I think that there's a bunch of people sat at the top that need to be replaced.
Okay.
I think Disney's ready for a new age. I think they've smashed it on some of the Disney remakes. Like Cinderella was really good. Aladdin was absolutely amazing. But the thing about Aladdin that made it good was it was different to the original film. They weren't trying to shot by shot recreate it. They introduced like different characters and different relationships between them, which was the best bit. Will Smith was just incredible in that film. And it was some of the other ones that they've done, like
you mentioned shot for shot remakes. Like, isn't The Lion King supposedly like that?
God, I haven't. I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't seen it. No, I'm not going to. The Lion King was my least. I'm gonna get cancelled. It was my least favorite Disney film. The Lion King is my least favorite Disney film when I was younger.
What's your favorite?
I'm glad you asked. I have two that are my all-time favorites. One is The Little Mermaid, obviously, and the other one is the most underrated Disney movie of all time, which is Atlantis, The Lost Empire. It is such an incredible film, and I'm so sad that it doesn't have the recognition it deserves. There's no merch. There's no Disney rides, and it would make such good Disney rides. I'm actually thinking of making a video about this.
Actually, that's you should definitely. I've got a few questions there. Though I'm very surprised that Disney hasn't gone with that because that's a very marketable thing. I can like, you know, as a marketing guy, I can already see the money, dollar signs as far as like, you know, just rides. I mean, look at the success of Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, you just create these structures that people, you know, love and adore, and they'll jump on that chance. But you just have to look at what they did with Star Wars to kind of go, well, okay, it's clearly not an issue of merchandise and not what is it must be like that they don't see any value in it. But I find that strange. Like, why wouldn't you just? They
just didn't push it. Like it did terribly in the box office, like when it first came out. So Disney kind of were like, oh, okay, we're going to pretend that never happened. They did exactly the same with The Black Cauldron, which is also a really great film. Like no one know, like if you're not a hardcore Disney fan, you don't know that film exists. But there was actually right. It's so good. There was actually a Disney ride in, I think it was either Hong Kong or Tokyo Disneyland. I can't remember. I'm not sure. One of them. And and it got discontinued because the ride was too scary for children. They were literal demons, like like skeleton demons coming out and trying to kill you, and kids got way too scared, so they replaced the ride. But wish I could have gone on it. It sounded amazing.
Yeah, it does sound a bit too scary.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I just thought that was really cool. Obviously, actually tied with that. Obviously, you've done videos where you've kind of explored Disney themes, various different themes. I think you did like Harry Potter themed videos. But in that, I noticed you've got your very own kind of unique sense of fashion. You've got like your own kind of fashion sense that's particularly interesting. And you try different aesthetics, which is interesting. Yeah, normally people with fashion, not always, but a lot of the time you would stick to one aesthetic, and maybe that changes over time as you change over time. But you try lots of different things. So I'm just wondering, where did your kind of love or interest in fashion begin, and who or what or where do you take inspiration from?
Oh, with fashion, I'm not really sure. Like, I used to struggle with it a lot.
Okay.
So I would say I only started getting into fashion when I also started getting into YouTube, because I was suddenly a lot more conscious about how I looked and what I was presenting and my brand. So I used to just wear jeans and a top for most of my life. And then I always hated how I looked. Like, I felt so unconfident. And then when I started YouTube, I actually had to start analyzing what I was doing on camera and how I looked. And I just realized, like, I hate jeans. I feel horrible in jeans. Why? I don't have to do this. I literally don't have to wear them. So I stopped wearing jeans, and I experimented more with dresses and skirts. And at the beginning it was very like kawaii, cutesy, pink fashion. And then that was okay while I was at uni. But then obviously when I got my full-time job, I couldn't be wearing like short tennis skirts to the office. So then I had to experiment with more mature styles. So that got me into like calf length, like midi skirts, and more modest clothing, which I started really enjoying as well. And now that I'm in a band, I feel like that's not going to cut it for being in a rock band. So now I'm experimenting with more like alternative styles, and I like wearing all black as well, but only on occasion. If I'm, day to day, I like to wear pretty dresses. It just makes me feel the best that I can. And I know a lot of people struggle with, oh, I could never wear that because I'm afraid of people judging me. But like, literally doesn't matter. It's what makes you feel good. And if you're confident, then people are not going to even think about what you're wearing.
You've kind of already answered my next question, but I just want to kind of explore it a little bit further. So you said that obviously your change in fashion was mostly tied to your YouTube and kind of looking at yourself through a lens, and as you said, thinking about how you are seen on the camera and stuff. And it's as much for you as it is for them. It's like a kind of, you're thinking about two things there. You're thinking about myself, how I feel, and then how your audience perceives you and such, and your brand as well. But was there like a particular moment thing where you made that decision, or was it you just kind of did a couple of videos and thought, okay, let's change it up, let's try something different? Or was there a different type of motivation, something else that happened that made you think, okay, I need to do something?
I'm always like this. I will analyze every tiny little thing I do. So like a lot of YouTubers will put out a video and they'll never watch it ever again. I will watch it like more times than I should. And I'll pick out things I'm like, oh, that's a weird mannerism that I do. I need like, or like, oh, that's kind of cute. I guess I'll do that more. This sounds very neurodivergent, I've just realized. But it's just, I'm very like particular with these sorts of things. But I'd say my main style change was when I started meeting my current friendship group and going to Comic-Con and being in the moment and seeing like being inspired by my friends and the styles around me. And obviously like, it's like crowd mentality as well, isn't it? Like you want to fit into your peers. So I just started dressing more that way, like having the courage to dress in a way that makes me feel good, because I'm surrounded by other people that also are doing that too.
Okay. I just got to ask you on this front, because I was due to have a guest actually on the show who did cosplay, but unfortunately they weren't available anymore. And but I still have these questions I want to know.
Yeah.
Can you please explain the appeal of both Comic-Con and cosplay? Because I've never been to Comic-Con. I've never done cosplay. I have no idea. It kind of looks cool sometimes when I see people doing videos and stuff, and you see the conventions. But in your own words, from your perspective, what's the appeal?
I mean, you're into Harry Potter and Marvel and things like that, right?
Sure.
It's honestly just the love of these fandoms just personified is what it feels like. So I can't even explain like the rush of the first time I went to Comic-Con. It was really like a light bulb lit up in my head, because I'd always, like, through school, I knew that I was like different and I didn't fit in with people in my school, and I could never pinpoint why. And I was like, what is it about me that is not connecting with people? And then I went to Comic-Con and I just walked in the door and I just went, oh my God, this is what these are my people. I have finally found my people. Everyone around you loves things like Disney or Harry Potter. You could literally go up to a random person and ask them what their Hogwarts house was, and they just wouldn't think you were weird. Oh my God, it was just that acceptance. It's just acceptance and having a place where you're not weird. That is the main appeal of it. Cool. And it literally makes me feel kind of emotional, because this is like the place that I met my friendship group that I have now. And before that, yeah, I just hadn't like connected with people before then. And you just form such like strong bonds, and you have so much to talk about, because you're like, oh, have you seen this new episode of the show I love? And before, that was something you'd have to kind of like do by yourself, and you know, that kind of thing. And it was just amazing to meet people that have similar interests. There's kind of like it was a niche interest. It doesn't feel like it is anymore. Marvel now seems like the mainstream, but it definitely didn't used to be.
This might seem like a stupid question, but like other than the, you know, the obvious things of like meeting people, you know, like famous people, or, you know, seeing the different stalls and stuff, like, what do you actually do at Comic-Con? You know what I mean? Like,
you walk around, you buy things, you talk to people, you have okay, I'll take you through my Comic-Con day. Mine is different to a lot of people's, because I'm not a morning person. And so you go to Comic-Con, you're in a big Airbnb you're in a big Airbnb with maybe like 10 other of your friends.
Oh, right.
Yep. You wake up at like 8. You start getting ready in your cosplay. That takes maybe 4 hours.
What?
Well, you also have breakfast. You got to have breakfast as well. So you order, or we call it, actually, we do this on Mondays. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. I'll explain that now. After Comic-Con, because I know I'm going to forget if I don't say this now. After Comic-Con, we're all around. Wait, let me start again. So my friends from Comic-Con are like from all over the country. So these people are traveling down, and we'll all stay in a big Airbnb. There's like 10 of us. And it's just so fun to just spend time with people, and you don't have any other responsibilities. You're just hanging out and just having the best time all weekend. You just chill. People have different like schedules. So some people will need to be at the convention early because they have stalls at Comic-Con. So my friend Liam, Snacky Boy, is an artist, and he sells his merch and like pins and art prints at Comic-Con. So he will have to go early to set up for that. Mm-hmm. And he'll usually take like 1 or 2 of us to like go and help him. So they're the morning people. And then there's people like me who will not be going to the convention until at least midday, because we've, you know, woken up at 8 and taken 4 hours to get ready in our cosplays. And then we'll go, and it's chill. And then the first thing we do when we enter is have lunch. So there's such great lunch places there. Usually Japanese food we'll have, which is so good. Yeah, it's so good. So we'll have lunch and we'll go and sit on the floor and we'll just chat, eating our lunch. And then we'll go and see Liam at his stall, hang out, ask him how it's going, run a couple of errands for him. He'll say, "Can you please go and get me a Starbucks? I'm dying." We'll be like, "Sure, no problem. We'll go off, go get him a Starbucks." You can see there's literally no structure here. It's literally you're just hanging out with your friends. You're walking around like all of my friends, most of us have like ADHD or something. So we're like, "Oh, this thing. Oh, over here." And it is literally just like bing, bing, bing of like us walking around the halls, like being distracted and just having the best time with each other, buying things, like going outside and taking photos in your cosplay as well as a massive part of the day. And then when the convention closes is when the fun really starts. So you'll all go out to like Wagamama's. You get the cable car over to the O2, have dinner with everyone, and then you'll go back to either the pub, you have some drinks, chill,
Oh
and then
my
you'll go
God.
back to the Airbnb, and it's just so fun, and you do it all over again.
Can you imagine this? Just walking into a pub and everyone's dressed like anime characters or like a particular fandom,
Literally.
and you're like, "What is going on?"
It's so fun, and people are dancing. Everyone's doing like the Macarena, and you've got like Naruto next to Harry Potter, and it's just like it's so funny. It's so fun.
Sounds like a real laugh.
It's the
Um,
best time.
I gotta ask, okay, the cosplay. So
Yeah.
it's got a couple of questions with that. Firstly, why does it? I mean, presumably the reason it takes so long to set it up is you've just got a lot of makeup and stuff to do with your hair and stuff like that. Like, why does it take so long?
I feel like for most people it probably wouldn't, but I get very distracted. So like
Okay,
I
fair
gotta have
enough.
a shower and dry my hair. That's at least an hour. And then like you got to do costume alteration. So like say something's fallen off your costume, you got to glue gun it back on.
Oh wow.
Another hour. And then makeup an hour and just like getting ready and then taking pics. That's 4 hours easy.
So when it comes to sourcing for materials and stuff, is there like particular places that you purchase this stuff? Does everyone tend to opt to create the stuff themselves? I mean, we're going to get into your design stuff a bit later, but like as far as like just creating these cosplays, like talk us through the sourcing and the creation of a cosplay
Yeah, so
costume.
like it cosplay is fine.
I don't know what to say. Is that what you call?
Say
Is that
cosplay. Say cosplay.
if you're referring to a costume, then you say a cosplay?
I, you know what? This is
I sound
tricky.
like a boomer.
This is a
Jesus.
tricky one actually, because like if you say costume, that's not really the right word.
Okay.
Because yes, it is a costume, but cosplay kind of takes it to the next level where you are either putting a spin on a character and you're
Okay.
doing something different, or you're really trying to recreate exactly. And costume just doesn't feel like it gives it enough merit, because it is a very big thing that you do, you know, like a costume is like, oh, you just put on a like a Halloween
Mm-hmm.
Regency dress, like that's it, like that's just the dress, but that's not cosplay, you know, like you're not cosplaying someone from 1800s, you know what I mean? Like it's the character, it's all about the character and that kind of thing.
Okay.
What was the question, sorry?
Well, you answered a different question of mine, but yeah, no, no, it's fine. So it's good. It's good. It's good. It's all of this is good. It's interesting. I was just wondering about the sourcing of
Oh,
materials and how you create the costumes or cosplays.
yeah, so there's definitely like two bits to it. It's like you can either buy a costume, cosplay. Oh my god, I literally did this. I did the thing. I've got the word in my head now. So you can either buy it or you can make it yourself.
Mhm.
My preference is to actually do a hybrid. I like to mix them together. So I start with a base,
Okay.
which I will usually get from, my favorite places to get bases are like Primark. So like say my character has a white top. Primark has amazing, cheap, plain white tops that I can alter. So like say the neckline isn't quite right. I can
Ah,
easily change the neckline instead of making a top from scratch. Is that kind of thing. So I
okay.
like to start with even my Bridgerton dress that I made, that I started with a base. So instead of having to make the dress and do all the patterns, I got a dress and then I changed it to be what I needed it to be. So that I find is the most efficient way to make a cosplay.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I always kind of automatically assumed that they're just really expensive, because you see the materials, you see the level of effort. Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get to. Like, I'm sure there are elements. I suppose it depends who you're cosplaying as, really, doesn't it? Like, if you're going to do like an anime character or something, that's going to probably set you back quite a lot, because it's like all these different elements to the costume, plus whatever you do with your hair, the makeup, etc. It's going to cost a lot. But
cosplay is so expensive. I cannot stress this enough. It is horrifically expensive, even if you make it yourself, which is kind of why I've stopped doing it as much now, because I love doing Disney princesses, of course, like living my dream of working at Disney. So these dresses, okay, so I get mine imported from Japan. And I kid you not, I will spend maybe £300 to £400 on one of these dresses. And that's not even including the wig. That's insane for a dress that I'm going to wear once. So it's very expensive.
I expected it to be more. I thought it'd be in the thousands. Yeah.
I mean, some people's are thousands, 100%. Like, you see the most amazing stuff people make, like they're in, like, I don't know, like they've done a League of Legends character and they're like in this big like armor and they've got stilts on. It's crazy. And people make their own chainmail as well. That obviously costs a lot of money. Yeah, it's in the hundreds. It's definitely in the hundreds. You can do it on a budget, but Harry Potter is on a budget, for example. Like, that's a budget cosplay you can do.
I'm sure there must be negative aspects to like Comic Cons and stuff, like the way people act and stuff. Just want to a little bit kind of touch on that. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, because I know that people like to role play sometimes when they're doing cosplays and stuff. Is there anyone that like takes it too far? Have you ever seen anything like that where people kind of, I don't know, get a bit weird? And
I actually have only had positive experiences with people, which I've definitely heard of people having negative experiences, but I feel like you're more likely to have a negative experience if you are with one other person. So I'm always in a group of 10 people. So no one's going to come up to me in my group and say something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got numbers behind me, so no one's going to do that. And also, I feel like some people, like, if you go, you kind of get stuck in the convention center, which is very busy. It's very packed. It's very stressful. When I go to Comic-Con, I go on a press pass, so I have to apply for it. And, you know, like, I'll make a YouTube vlog and they'll be like, okay, cool, here's a pass. You can come. But with that pass, you also get access to the green room, which is just a quiet place for people to go, for creators, just go and chill. And you're away from everyone and the hustle and bustle, and you can just have a bit of a breather, which is definitely like life-saving.
Cool. Oh, I'm learning something here. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, one of the things you touched on there, which I'd actually forgotten that you told me this before, but I just wanted to bring this up. So you mentioned you've got this dream of working at Disney. Let's explore that a little bit. What exactly is that dream? What do you want to do? What's the goal?
My dream has always been to voice a Disney princess. That's like my number one. I'm done. Like, if I do that, I'm tick. Life is complete for me. Can't get better than that. I'd love to get into voice acting, being in the studio and just playing around with lines and seeing how I can portray it, and then working with other people and bouncing off each other. I would love to do that. I really have been meaning to get into it, and I don't know, I'm hoping that like doing a lot of recording in the studio has given me like a lot of experience with that as well, and working with other people. But also I'd love to do like a year where I just go to Disney World and I'm, you know, a Disney princess. I don't know who they'd put me as, I hope it would be. I'm the right height for a Disney princess, actually, to work in the parks. So I do feel very blessed about that. They're very particular. I think you have to be like between 5'5" and 5'7", I think.
Yeah.
Because obviously the costumes are one size and everyone has to fit in them. So you can't be taller or shorter, otherwise the costume won't fit. So that one is a costume, actually. That's not a cosplay. But yeah, I really want to do it. I'm just, with COVID and everything, the auditions have kind of stopped. And before I definitely didn't have enough confidence to successfully do a Disney audition. But I feel like now I might have a better chance.
I say there's always next year. Why not? Go for it.
Yeah.
Fast approaching 2022. So
I'd love to do it. I would.
Go for it. Do it. People want it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's move it forward. So you're a small business owner and you sell vintage inspired jewelry. So talk to us a little bit about this business, your design process and your sourcing process for materials and everything.
Sorry, what did you say?
So let's start with like the business itself. Well, let's explore maybe how you started this business. How did this business begin?
I actually don't know.
Okay. Was it maybe like an offshoot of getting into your fashion and then you sort of had this inspiration to start selling your stuff?
Yeah, so I have like a big interest in like entrepreneurship, to be honest with you, because I obviously quit my full-time job and then I was like, oh, there's a pandemic, there's no money coming in, what can I do? And I just thought, I have all these different skills, like I have too many hobbies, how can I use all of this? How can I put it all to use and do one thing? And I was like, oh, starting an online business literally ticks all my boxes. So I can make websites, I can design things, I can do social media marketing, like everything, all these different skills I'm accumulated from different places, I can put it towards this. And I love doing it. I love creating, like having a project to work on and then get it out. I'd really love to do more businesses like this. It's just it's time. I'm not finding the time at the moment. I love it.
Yeah, it's just the thing you got to always like work at and keep going. You should have it. I mean, it's good stuff from what I've seen. It's definitely you guys should all check it out. Links will be in the description. But yeah, I mean, it's I think it fits into everything that you're doing at the moment, especially the fact that it's like vintage jewelry and it kind of fits with a lot of the things that you're wearing and stuff. Like, actually, that was a thing that I wanted to ask you initially. Like, what's the design process and how do you source these things? Like, do you find them in vintage shops and then you come up with ideas to develop them and such, or like how does the design process work at your company?
Hold on. So wait, I had something I was gonna say. What was it?
The suspense.
So so I got into, just before COVID, I really started getting into art. I love Renaissance art. I went to Florence and I saw my favorite paintings by Botticelli and I was just blown away. Before then, I'd never really gotten into art and art history, but now I just absolutely love it. I love walking around art galleries and learning about the history and the artists. I love all of that. So I was like, okay, I want to do something with that. And the thing about these pieces of art is that they're out of copyright because the artist died more than, I think it's 70 years ago. So now they're in public domain and anyone can use them, which is great. So I have like a manufacturer abroad that I talk to. I'm currently working on some new designs now, actually. I've been meaning to follow up with him about that. But my next collection is going to be sort of like ballet inspired. So yeah, I'm really excited for that, and I'm starting to experiment more with not just jewelry but also accessories. Like I've got these mirrors that are coming out soon, and then also I'm looking at bags as well. Just adding more things to my store, like curating a shop that goes well, and then marketing it and that sort of thing.
So what would you say are the biggest kind of challenges of being a small business owner?
Oh, consistency, 100% consistency. I have such a scatterbrain. I will forget to do anything for literally a month, and I'm like, oh, I haven't been advertising my business, and I've got my Shopify fees coming out of my bank account. I haven't even advertised it. I'm wasting money and time and stock, and I just can't focus on one thing for more than like a month.
And what advice could you give to aspiring small business owners from what you've learned so far?
I would say don't put like a ceiling over your head, if that makes sense. Like you can literally learn to do anything. Don't let the fear of, oh, I don't know how to do that, like stand in the way of you doing anything, because that is what my degree taught me the most, which I did a degree in computer science. Wow. And a lot of that is research. You know, you're not taught every language. You don't know all the syntax. You don't know what bugs are going to come up. So most of that job is researching and learning. You have to learn quickly, and taking that sort of like mentality and applying it to everything else is game changing. It's like, you don't know how to draw, okay, but you can learn. It's literally, you can literally do anything. You honestly can. Like, oh, you don't know how to make a website? It's really not that hard. Nothing is that hard. You can do anything. And just having that is so, it's just very empowering, to be honest.
Brilliant advice. Thank you so much for sharing. You mentioned sort of earlier that you have trouble focusing sometimes and stuff like that. Now that's tied to your recent diagnosis of ADHD.
Yeah.
So obviously this being a recent thing, so you didn't always know necessarily you had it, you had inklings about it and stuff. So talk us through your experiences so far and kind of where it all began for you, and sort of getting to this point with the final diagnosis and stuff.
Oh, it has been such a long journey. I've struggled with focus and everything ADHD for my whole life. It was never spotted when I was a child, and unfortunately I've had to struggle my way through school. I always knew something was wrong though, because school was so hard, exams was so difficult, revising, it should never have been that hard, but it was.
Why do you think they missed it, the initial diagnosis?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, I was very, very shy, and I came from quite a strict household. So having outbursts and being loud wasn't a thing that was even like acceptable. So being shy, I would have to hold everything in at school. All of these, like, I was a massive fidgeter at school, like couldn't sit still. I'd get in trouble a lot with teachers, but like emotionally and being like what's going on in my head, I couldn't be outside. And then as soon as I got home from school, my mum would close the door and I would just on the floor, I'd just crumble, like scream for an hour, because I just couldn't handle the pressure of like the day. And I do wonder, like, how do you see this in your child and not think something's wrong with her?
Yeah.
But we got through it, and then I just have to be good when, you know, after that. And yeah, it was a lot.
I don't normally ask my guests age, but you're in your mid-20s now,
Yes,
right?
I'm 25.
So how come when you got into sort of adult life, you didn't kind of seek to get a diagnosis sooner? Like, was there something blocking that, or is
I
it just...
didn't know it was ADHD. I thought I was just a useless person. I had so many negative thoughts about myself my entire life. Like, why can't I just do it? Why can't I be like other people? Like, am I just so lazy? I honestly felt so angry at myself, and it really lowered my confidence. And it wasn't until, actually, you kind of asked me this, like, why wasn't it picked up on? The
Mm,
reason it wasn't picked up on is because I was a high achiever at school. I always got good grades, always. Somehow, through a lot of struggle, I naturally have the ability to pick things up very, very quickly.
mm.
For example, all of my exams, I'd literally, like, for history, I would read the textbook once, do the exam, and I would have full marks, because that's all I needed to do to revise. But to get to the point where I sit down and read the book, like, it would take me an hour on the train to read it, and then I'd go and do the exam the next day. That was all I needed to do to get really good grades.
Do you have a photographic memory then?
It's not fully photographic, but it's like semi-photographic. So I can really easily memorize numbers. I can very easily look at a page and recreate it. So what I would do when exams got harder is I'd read the book, I'd write on like one A4 sheet, like a cheat sheet, everything I needed to know, like formulas, dates, important facts. I'd write that on a sheet of paper. Before the exam for an hour, I would just stare at it, memorize. I'd have like patterns on the page. And then as soon as I went into the exam, sat down, the first thing I did was the blank sheet of paper, I'd recreate my cheat sheet like that. And then I literally didn't need to remember anything because I had every single thing I needed on this piece of paper. So then it doesn't matter that it was gone by the end of the exam, because I could refer to it and be like, oh, okay. And that's literally how I did every single exam.
Wow.
I know. It's literally nuts. And you could have asked me the day later what the exam was about, and I couldn't have told you because it was gone. I have a really good short-term memory. Long-term is a different story.
I remember meeting a guy in sixth form actually who did something similar. He did, like, we were talking about his GCSE physics or something, chemistry, something like that. And he said that what he'd done, obviously I don't think you can do this anymore, but what he'd done is in the textbooks, he'd remembered every single, because at the bottom of the science textbooks, you used to have those key points sections. And there'd be like 5 bullet points.
Yeah.
And he just learned every single one of those off by heart throughout all of them. And this is the problem with exams. It's not about knowledge. It's about remembering.
It's a memory test.
Yeah, how well can you remember? Which is BS, but here we are. And that's how he got it. He got an A star, but he didn't remember anything. Like, he just said, I didn't learn anything. And I'm like, how can you not learn? Like, what?
That is literally my school experience. And this is why I didn't pick up that I had ADHD for such a long time. Because obviously I was like, well, I'm doing well in school, so why? There's obviously not a problem here. But actually, sitting down to do the revision and to read the book was an absolute total nightmare. It felt like I was trying to run through a brick wall. Like, I just couldn't sit down and focus. It was worst thing in the world. Coursework, so difficult for me to do. So I did my final year dissertation at uni. You're given 6 months to do it. I wrote my 15,000 word dissertation in 4 days. And it was the 4 days before the deadline. I was working up until half an hour before the deadline was submitted. So 4 days before my dissertation was due, I hadn't written a single word. And then I had to sit down and do it. And because I got that adrenaline rush, I could then do it. And I would be writing like 3,000 words, more than that, 3,500 words a day. And then I didn't even have time to read through my dissertation before I handed it in. But I still got a good mark somehow and graduated with first. But
congratulations. Wow, that's amazing.
But also, what did I learn? What do I know? It's all gone. Like, I could do the memory tests, like that was fine. But it wasn't until I spoke to someone from school that I used to go to school with, who was also a high achiever that had ADHD. It wasn't until I spoke with him that I realized actually this is what it is. Because I just assumed it's like the stigma, you know, like people with ADHD, they're loud, they're hyperactive, they're disruptive in class, and they don't do well in school. That just wasn't the case for me. So I didn't pick up that I had it. And then after speaking to him and realizing that he had the diagnosis, and he was like, this is why I worked the same way you did, revising only the day before the exam, and now I'm on medication and my life has massively improved. I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I might be able to improve and change. And now I'm very happy to finally have my diagnosis, and I just feel like such a weight off my shoulder, and I can start tackling all these self-esteem issues that I've had for so many years.
For those who are out there right now who might either be going through the same thing that you're going through now, or are unsure, can you tell us a little bit about like what's happening now, as far as like what are the next stages, and also I don't know if there's any advice you could give for people right now that are in a similar situation?
I'd say if you can identify with anything that I've said, it's not just like trouble focusing, it's also impulse. So like impulse control, I have bad impulses with shopping. I have like emotional outbursts. I struggle to regulate my emotions. I've struggled a lot with household chores, doing things regularly. Anything like that, you can get help for it, and you should talk to your GP. There's this thing that I did, which check out a website called Psychiatry UK. You can get referred to them through the NHS, which hugely lowers the waiting list time. I think the waiting list on the NHS is 2 to 3 years, but I managed to get an appointment and diagnosed within 10 months.
Jeez.
I now have to wait another 6 months for medication through this private thing. If I wasn't doing it through the private thing, it would be another 2 to 3 years to wait for medication.
See, I don't understand that. How did they not see that that's a problem? Like, I understand, don't get me wrong, people will call me ignorant, say, oh, well, you don't know how, you know, difficult it is for the NHS and resources and stuff. I know all of that. But
yeah,
like, if people are having to wait for years, like, what do you do in that time? Like, how do you cope?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to cope for the next 6 months. Like, I couldn't even imagine waiting years. I honestly, like, it's such a big problem in my life that if I was told the waiting list is 2 to 3 years, I would just go private, because like a couple £100 for me is an investment. If I can then work and actually keep a full-time job, the £300 is worth paying for me to, you know, improve my life like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. Let's switch it up. So you currently reside in London, but you grew up in Cambridge. I was just interested to know, how do these two places compare in terms of everyday life? Like, obviously they're very different, but from your experience, like, what are the key differences?
Cambridge is a lot slower. London is very fast paced. So where I live in Cambridge it's not actually the city centre that I lived in. It was on the outskirts, so it felt very countryside. There was a lot of greenery, a lot of lovely places to go for a walk. That's what I miss the most about living in Cambridge. Living in London, like especially during the pandemic, I felt like I was locked in concrete. I hated it. I had a tiny little balcony, which was my space to go outside. And it just isn't it without all of the appeal of events and seeing friends in London. It just wasn't worth it. Obviously,
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say the architecture in Cambridge is also just absolutely stunning. Like the university, it's so beautiful. It really is like nothing else. Well, I guess it's a bit like Oxford, but they are very similar.
Obviously, you mentioned earlier that you'd kind of used music as a way to kind of get through the pandemic, or it's a focus of yours. But what else did you do? Like you said that it was you know, you felt sort of trapped. You know, I kind of felt the same here in Manchester, particularly because I don't know the area very well. I only moved here in 2020. So like, what else did you do? Like, how did you get through it?
I did a lot of streaming actually on Twitch. I streamed 3 times a week, and because of my ADHD, they were not like, I wouldn't stream for 2 hours. I would stream for, I think the longest stream I did was over 8 hours. And I could have gone longer, but it was like 5 a.m. I just kept going. I played a lot of video games. I played most of the Harry Potter games on the PC, which was really fun. And I also played all the BioShock games, which was amazing.
Is streaming something that you are are you still doing it, or you do have plans?
I'm not currently doing it. I haven't done it since last year, but I really want to get back into it really soon, because I feel like now I have a bit of time.
Okay. And is it, you know, we mentioned earlier that you've got a YouTube channel. Are you still committing to that, or is that on hold for now? What's the deal there?
It has been on hold while I've been figuring out what I want to do with it. I have, I think, over 19,000 subscribers on there, so I feel like it's such it's such a waste to not do anything with it. But also I've just felt really like run down about all the videos I was making on there. It would take me months to make. I used to do Disney covers, like live action Disney covers, so it would be like green screen, cosplays, music. It would, and video editing, it would take me so long to do all of these, and they would just get demonetized instantly.
Oh, wow.
So I just really started hitting a wall with it, and I was like, why am I doing this for like no money, no reason? I got to reevaluate. And now I'm getting my music fix from doing stuff with the band. So now I feel like my priorities, I can do videos that are going to be a lot quicker for me to do, but also are good content, I hope. I have a lot of ideas for it, like more business and finance related things, ADHD, Disney parks, that kind of thing. I'd love to do.
Excellent. Well, best of luck with that. I think people will be really into that. I think it's, I don't know, I mean, I'm personally a multi-content creator, and for me it's more about just doing everything, because I can't just do one thing. That's just me personally. Same. But I do think in general, for content creators, it is always worth giving it a go. Even if you just have, I mean, this is what I do. I tend to have like different platforms for different things, or different channels even. So for example, like on YouTube, you know, I've got my main account, and then I've got like a shorts account, and then one for the podcast as well. And I feel like having that kind of mix and spread means that anyone that's a follower of yours can kind of, you know, find out everything that you do, or if they only like one particular thing, they can just subscribe to that channel and ignore the rest. Whereas maybe it's not such a good idea to just do lots of different things on one channel. But I don't know, it's just tricky, because I do that on TikTok. Like I just do a mixture of different things, and sometimes I wonder about this. I'm like, is this right? Is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. But yeah, best of luck with that.
Thank you.
I just want to talk about your design career for a little bit, because you've got like a lot of obviously, you know, you've got a degree in computer science, you've worked as a software engineer, obviously on your website people can hire you as a UI UX designer. There's a lot of different areas I can kind of go with this, but I guess the main thing I want to kind of focus on is what are the kind of key lessons that you've learned from being a software engineer and a UI UX designer?
The thing I was talking about earlier with doing your own research and learning, that's a big thing I've learned from being a developer. Also, problem solving and thinking outside the box with the design aspect. I love UI UX design because it's still in the tech world, so I get to use all of my tech knowledge from my degree, but in a creative way, which is something that I found was severely lacking when I was a programmer. It was very, you know, like code on a page, that's all you're looking at. I mean, front-end development, there was a bit more creativity, but it wasn't as much as I needed. I really love to express myself creatively, play around with different designs. I absolutely love it. It doesn't feel like a job to me. That's what I wanted out of a job, is to have something that doesn't feel like a job, where I don't feel like I'm trapped and I'm sat doing something that I really don't enjoy. I mean, I can code, but I don't get the enjoyment out of it. It drives me crazy. The amount of bugs is always a problem. It's a never-ending problem. But with UI design, it's happier. It's just happy. It's a happier time.
What do you think are the main things to avoid doing in UI and UX? Because obviously this is increasingly becoming more and more important as an aspect of marketing in general. And, you know, it's, a website is the first thing that you deal with, or an app or whatever. It's the first thing you interface with. And very much it's kind of like a representation or a reflection on your business if it's, you know, if it's bad. So what are the main things to avoid?
You have outlined this perfectly. You have just said it's the first thing that a customer looks at. It's very important. It's the interface that your customer is interacting with. So number one, stop getting developers and people with no design experience to design your website. Oh my gosh, this is my biggest pet peeve in the tech world. You see so many websites that just don't make sense. They're very bad. They're not intuitive to use. It's because you haven't bothered. You didn't want to invest in hiring a designer. You've just gone, well, the developers, they're making the website, so they can just design it too. No, don't do that. Bad. It's bad. They don't know what they're doing. And then you end up with things like Snapchat. Oh, don't even.
Okay, you got to tell us what's wrong with Snapchat. Come on.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. It's bad user interface.
Bad YouTube. So it could be better. What would you change about Snapchat if you could?
The main thing is how you choose the different pages. So you can swipe across, or there's a button where you can also get to the same page. Why are there two different actions?
Yeah, I will add to this actually
unnecessary.
that there are certain apps that I don't like. Like I don't like the YouTube Studio app. I've always thought that it's gotten a little bit better over the past year, but it's generally very buggy and it just doesn't compare to the website. And to be honest, if anything, I think an app should be better than your website in many ways.
Yeah.
You know, because like most people that interact with your brand are doing so through a mobile device. So, you know, that's the way you have to think. Like I remember when I was working in this one company, I've always worked in marketing, and I remember we did some analytics tracing. Now, obviously you do that anyway in marketing, but this is the first time we'd ever just sat down and looked at, well, who's using our website? And it was overwhelmingly like 60-70% mobile users.
It is now
20% desktop. So it's like that's the mindset you have to have, is the app version is the most important aspect, how it looks on phones and stuff.
100%. Another great example is Amazon Prime versus Netflix. Netflix is far superior with their UI design. Amazon Prime looks old, it's clunky. Things are not where you expect them to be. So to continue watching, you have to scroll past suggestions, but in the suggestions is the thing you're trying to watch. So if you click on that, it takes you back to the beginning of the series you're watching, and it's like you have to go down even further to, oh my god, it's so bad.
There's another one I want to add to this as well, just as a final example, but it's an interesting one. So WWE, the wrestling company, had and they still do have a WWE network, like their own streaming platform essentially. And it's still available in the UK, and I think maybe in Europe, I'm not too sure. But in America, they've switched, so you can no longer get the WWE network in America, as far as I'm aware. And they moved to a platform called Peacock, which streams a bunch of different things, right?
Okay.
And from what I understand, when they made the move, people were really frustrated with the user interface aspect of things. So, for example, I mean, it's kind of a joke, but like, WWE Raw and SmackDown are like episodic television shows that have been going for like 20 years, 25 years, right? But now, in order to, rather than it being dated, like, okay, the week of first week of March, first week of April, whatever, it goes by season date. And it's like, well, technically it never ends. I suppose you could call a year a season, but it doesn't really apply. So then it's like, well, which season is it? Like season,
oh my gosh,
137. Like it's just stupid. And there's a bunch of others. Like it just doesn't have the same appeal. Or even the WWE Network. I remember I had it for a while and I was kind of pretty underwhelmed. Like the best part about it was just the ability to just stream whatever you want, whenever you want. But even that, like sometimes it was difficult to find things. Like I remember having to go on a bit of a wild goose chase just to find a particularly old set of pay-per-views that I wanted. You know, I mean, I think in those situations, a search bar is invaluable.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done without that, to be honest. But even then, you had to know, but like, and this is a bit of advice for anyone out there: make sure that you have a lot of tags connected to the different pages of things that people are most likely to look for.
Yeah, that's going past the design. That's like how you're gonna code the search as well as.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. Like the way that you present it and the terminology that you use isn't necessarily what your customers are going to be using.
Exactly. So this is why you need to get it right. You have to get it right, otherwise you'll lose business. For example, Zara's website. I love Zara. I have so much money to give Zara, but their website is so awful to use. I won't use it. I have never ordered anything from Zara because it's the most awful website to use. They've gone for this editorial look and it's chaotic and things are not positioned right in the page, and I just won't use it. I will not use it. But if they had a website like ASOS or just it's literally just a normal website, I would have spent so much money at Zara, and they are missing out. And I'm not the only person that feels this way.
Change it. You've been warned.
Change it. I have money to spend.
Like, here, take my money, but not before you sort out your website.
Literally.
Okay. This is my favorite question.
Oh.
What's the biggest life lesson that you've learned so far?
People don't care about you as much as you think they do. This sounds not nice, but what I mean is you can get so much anxiety in your head of, oh, this person's looking at me funny, or like, oh, this person has acted a certain way because they don't like me. No, 99% of the time that is not the case. They just are going about their own lives and you are not even in their periphery. You know what I mean? Like,
totally agree.
Live for yourself and not consider, I mean, because it'd be nice, but you know, like, don't take it too seriously.
Couldn't have put it better myself. And as we draw things to a close for today, do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with? I'm
playing a gig on the 14th of October, but I don't know when this is coming out, so it might have already happened.
It should be before, but yeah.
If it's before, okay. That's what I'm working on, and then at the end of October, or maybe around like the 21st, Snaggletooth is having a new song coming out, and yeah, it's called Fangs. Oh, that's a bit of a leak. But it's something that you haven't heard before, so it's going to be a good one. I have high hopes for this one. So that's all I'm really working on at the moment, but thank you for having me on your podcast. This has been really fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for appearing on the podcast.
No problem.
And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, as always, thank you very much for listening. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.